I believe this pandemic is changing all of us, even if we don't consciously realize it. For instance, how many of you have watched a show or a series that you would have otherwise not watched? I have, and the series is World on Fire, part of the PBS's Masterpiece Theater. In the past, I would not have watched it because it's like a soap opera. It's a fictional dramatic piece from World War II, which my dad fought in. And I know that the war was horrific, and it was before my time. However, once I started to watch it, I saw a number of parallels between the victims of the occupied countries under Nazi Germany and what is happening today with us as a result of the pandemic. Please understand, this is not a criticism of either our state or federal governments. The Nazis would amass on a country's border and then quickly attack and overwhelm the defensive forces. It sounds like how the coronavirus entered the United States. In both cases, they were forces difficult to fight against. Once the Nazis occupied a country, residents couldn't go where they wanted to or when they wanted to. Sounds similar to our stay-at-home orders, doesn't it? During the Nazi occupation, your livelihood was likely disrupted. During the coronavirus, non-essential businesses were forced to close. The Nazis controlled the people's daily schedules, so the people were forced to change them, then change them again and again, none of which the occupied people had any control over. During this period of pandemic, we are now seeing how little real control we have over our schedules and our lives. Things in the past that the occupied people counted on, like shops being open and service people to consult, were closed by the government. Close parallel to our current situation, don't you think? Personal ties were disrupted in both cases. One couldn't or can't go and see loved ones for a visit, even if it's for a special occasion. The potential for death is ever present. Loved ones die without being allowed to have family members around. Also, the general closeness with families, friends, and even strangers that the occupied people had with each other, and the general closeness we have with others before the pandemic, was something we took for granted. Not true today. Now closeness to other people no longer feels natural. We become distrustful of other people's closeness outside of our own sphere, and we treat them with suspicion. For the Second World War context, the question was, is the other person a Nazi sympathizer? In today's case, the questions are, does the person who is invading my expanded personal space of 6 feet have COVID-19? Will they give it to me? Why aren't they social distancing? Why aren't they wearing a mask? And as a result, we have many more lonely moments, and our patience is pushed to the limit. Now, likely you're asking yourself, why in the world is he talking about this stuff and not the gospel? Well, it's because as I read the gospel today, I read it differently, or I understood it differently than I would have ever had in the past. In the past, I knew the story just as you know the story. Jesus promises an advocate. Jesus promises a Spirit. The Spirit comes down at Pentecost. And as a result of Pentecost and the Spirit, then the apostles and the disciples are empowered. And they go out and they preach to all nations. And they're willing to undergo persecution. But that's not where our reading is tonight. Our reading tonight is a bunch of people in an upper room with Jesus who were scared. They came into Jerusalem on the previous Sunday, and they were met like they were royalty. But during the week, things changed. Powerful people were influencing the people. And as a result of that, they knew their lives were in jeopardy. And so they were up there, and Jesus says, I'm going to send you an advocate because I'm leaving. How do you think they felt? You know, when I've read that in the past, I would have always thought about, yeah, the Holy Spirit's going to come, it's going to be better and everything else. But they're living in the moment. And that's the same moment we're living in right now. We certainly have hope that that vaccine is just around the corner. That even though it took years in the past to develop and test and become effective, we hope that it's done in months and not years. But we don't know that for sure. And so as a result, we live and we're worried and we're scared that we are going to get COVID-19. And if we do we get a serious case of it? Or do we get a mild case of it? Those are the things that we're living through right now, the uncertainty that that brings. That's the uncertainty that when I read this gospel today, I felt. It's not a sense that I have felt in the past. Now, one of the things that you all are aware of is our governor has opened up for church services to be conducted starting this weekend. But social distancing needs to be done, disinfecting needs to be done, and a lot of other things. The preparation list, there's a whole checkoff list, 2 pages long, that we have to submit to the diocese before we can actually start public worship. The diocese has said, even though the governor said you could start this weekend, we're telling you, you can't start until next weekend. Well, as many of you know, our building has been closed for the last week. And 2 of our staff members continue to be in self-quarantine. And so we're kind of getting a later start on the process. So what we're looking at is in 2 weeks from tonight, that will be our first in-person Mass. Now, I'm going to tell you a number of things, but you don't have to write it down. You don't have to remember that, because you're going to get a letter that's going to be explaining all of this. But remember when I mentioned there that your patience will be tested to the limit. Well, one of the things that we as Americans have always been taught from the marketing and the advertisers is you can have it your way when you want it. And that's just not going to be the case right now with your church services, as well as your barber, the DMV, and everybody else. One of the things that we're going to do is you're going to have to call in a reservation to get on. We've moved half the chairs out of the worship center so that we could social distance for 6 feet. Well, as a result of that, our capacity, which was over 500, we may not be able to put more than 100 or so in that particular space. We're going to start off with a 5:30 evening Mass on the Saturday, the 30th, and we're going to have a 9 a.m. Sunday Mass in the sanctuary. But those are the only 2 public Masses we're going to have for that first weekend. Because there's so many things that we need to make sure that we're doing correctly. The diocese has said you need to keep 3 hours between your services. So even when we are able to expand, if we have a 9 a.m. Mass, our next Mass won't be until noon. And that Mass can only hold the same number of people. There's going to be changing, and we will keep you updated on that. But it's going to be there, it's going to be really trying your patience, trying our patience, but as a result of it, we will have opportunities for you to once again receive the Eucharist. Now, one of the things that we are going to do is we're going to have Tuesday through Friday daily Mass in the worship center, so we can fit the most people that we possibly can for the liturgy throughout the week. One of the things you may really want to consider is, you know what, I'm retired, I know that there are people who are working during the week, I'm not going to sign up for one of the weekend Masses, I'll go during the week. You know, those are some of the things we're going to ask you to sacrifice. You know, we look forward to that time when we can just decide, oh, I'm not feeling like I want to go tonight, I'll go tomorrow morning. Oh, I want to sleep late, so I'll go to 10:30, I won't go to the 8:45. Those days are coming back, but not in the near future, not right away. You need to bear with us. We ask you for your patience. We ask you for your understanding, and we appreciate you working with us. God bless you.